Is perfect.
Okay.
All right, everyone. So I could start by speaking, or is there someone else who's just ready to go? If not, I'll go ahead and I'm gonna time this with my little iPhone here, and this is the first time I've done the timing as well as the facilitating. So
I can help you if you want. I can
you want to do the timing
if you want.
You,
yes, I can do that.
Okay, I'll let you do the timing thing. Carolina, can you make a little sign like this, or should I hold up my sign?
I have something like that.
You have something. All right, we're all set then. Okay, I will forget about my timer, and I'll just start now talking about this issue of pro-life.
Whom you choose?
Say that again.
Whom you choose?
Oh yes, I will choose Gunga to be my listener. Okay. So this is a complicated issue for me. I really loved it when Carolina said the way she prefers to frame this is pro-choice versus anti-choice, because I think who isn't pro-life in the generic use of that term? I mean, to me, whatever fosters the benefit of all and life on this planet is the highest value. And yet, with this pro-choice, anti-choice thing, I think we're just talking about, does the government have the right to dictate who can have an abortion and whether a doctor can get legally penalized, whether a woman can get legally penalized for needing an abortion. So I'll pause at that point first. And Gunga, you need to unmute.
Yeah, I have unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Would you like me to reflect back what you said?
Yes.
Okay. So I picked up, you hold life as very precious, and therefore you would like to reframe the whole dilemma, taking a cue from Carolina, that let this be a question of pro-choice or anti-choice. Who doesn't value life?
Yes, that's what I said. And the main thing that I think the debate is about in my world is, does the government have the power to legislate what happens, both for doctors who might give abortions and for women who might need abortions? So that part, could you just reflect that back for me?
Yeah, and I'm sensing you are intrigued or maybe even wondering, should government empower itself to legislate or not on such a personal topic?
Actually, I have a pretty strong position on that, so I'm not so intrigued by whether it should. My position my position is no, the government should not do that. Any government.
Okay. So I hear your stance loud and clear that the government should not take it upon itself to choose for the citizens.
That's right. I feel heard there. And yet it's a very complicated issue. I have never been pregnant. I wanted to be. I never was able to be. I value the forces of nature. I used to say, when I was married, having a child is too important a decision to be made rationally. So I kind of always knew, even if I wasn't ready to have a child, if I got pregnant, I would not be able to have an abortion. So my own personal decision would be I would probably never have an abortion.
So you shared with us a very important piece from your personal life history, and you have longed to be a mother, and you honor the forces of nature. And if at all you were to conceive, you would never abort willfully.
Yes. However, as I worked in the 60s and 70s, pretty much on the streets with welfare mothers and street people, and saw a lot of people who had children, and this was before it was legal in the 1960s, before abortion was legal, before Roe v. Wade. I would see a lot of unwanted children. I know there are still a lot of unwanted children, but parents who really were not capable of taking care of their children and who would have gotten an abortion back then if it had been legal.
Okay. So, do I have time to reflect back?
Yes, go ahead. We're not too rigid with these 5 minutes, so just reflect back, and then my turn will be over, and then you'll be the speaker.
All right. So, in one line, in the 60s and 70s, when you worked with destitute children, you felt if the choice was made available to those mothers, they would probably have a different fate. It was the pre-legislation era. Yeah. Thank you.
I feel heard.
You're welcome. So I will share my perspectives, and I would like to pick the gentleman. I don't know his name.
Bob. Ganga, I'm listening.
Yeah. Hi, Bob. My perspective on this issue, I will also share from my personal history. I never married, and in India, our society is structured in a way that we have children after marriage. Marriage is an institution for us here, and that's my world and my reality. Okay. On this particular topic, my view is life is precious.
Ganga, can you pause and give a chance to Bob to reflect what you're saying?
Okay.
So I hear you say that you've never been married, and in India, marriage is a very valued institution, and that was the main 2 points that I've heard.
Yeah, and children follow after marriage.
So in Indian society, it's the norm for marriages to happen first, and then children come out of marriage.
Yeah, thank you, Bob. So do raise your hand if you want me to pause in between.
Okay.
Thank you, Carolina, for helping us. Okay, so that's one. Another thing is, if due to health reasons, the child is likely to be born with congenital defects, and if the institutions representing a particular religion, okay, and I'll give an example. Typically, I have seen instances where Catholic Church and families from this community, they have had a huge difficulty. So I will pause now and invite you to reflect.
Okay. So there are religious institutions, particularly the Catholic Church, where children who are conceived and who develop congenital difficulties, there is a extreme tension between families who might want to consider abortion and the dictates of their religious institution.
Yeah. And what really makes it even more complicated, and I agree with my colleague who said in the beginning, if you do something like this, going against the church, you will be excommunicated. You know, you will no longer be part of the social circle. You can be ostracized, and that's a very painful reality. So I pause now.
So I hear you saying that if a Catholic woman or family chose to have an abortion, they would be subject to excommunication, ostracized, and separated from the social circle.
Yeah, and this can vary from location to location, because India is very vast. We celebrate our diversity. So I'm not saying this equally applies across all over, but in my circle of understanding and people I have met with, this is a huge tension.
So in India, there's a diversity in this vast country, and not every area is the same. However, in your area, you've seen families who are under extreme duress and tension.
Yeah. So to summarize, where I feel the world is moving today, I'm happy such topics are being surfaced and people are made to look at. I would say let this be an individual's preference, like sexual orientation. And let's give them the credit that we all are wired with a head to give the reason and a heart to give the compassion. I pause now.
So you are in favor of personal choice in this issue, and you honor the people of the world who have a head for rational thinking and a heart for compassion, and you uphold all people's right to express their heart and their head the way they choose.
Thank you, Bob, and you can pat yourself on the back. I feel heard.
All right. Carolina, would you please listen to me?
Yes, of course, I will try. As usually, I have to remind you that I don't speak English very well. I might face some problems, so be merciful.
Okay. I don't know anyone who has had an abortion. I know a dear friend whose father performed abortions, and I am aware that his family, I believe, was afflicted by bad karma in a very negative, dark way.
So if you let me reflect, you don't have kind of direct experience with abortion. You don't know anybody who did that. As I understand, a woman who did that. But you know a doctor, I suppose, who were performing abortion, if I understand you correctly. And this, let's say, job or the thing this person was doing kind of impacted this person and the family in kind of dark way, as I understand.
Yes, thank you.
Is it correct?
This is correct. I feel heard. Thank you. So my main concern is wholeness in the individual, wholeness in families. And I'm sure there are people who have had abortions who feel better about it in the big picture.
That part is not clear to me. As I understand, you kind kind of appreciate the holiness of life. Is it correct? You use word wholeness, holiness. Yeah. Okay. And but I'm not sure what you meant then.
Let me try saying it again. My guess is there are women who have undergone abortion who, even with the pain involved, believe it was a wise decision for them and for their family.
So, if I understand you correctly, you mean that people who were engaged in abortion sometimes justify this thing, but it's kind of hiding the reality of this act and the kind of dark feelings about it. Is it correct?
Well, I'm not sure that's right. What I'm trying to say is, my guess is, and this is a guess, that there are some women who have undergone abortions who, even with the pain involved, believe in the big picture that it was a wise decision.
Okay, so it's kind of denying in the name of kind of more, I don't know, life or social issues. They decide to kind of, even they feel horrible about the act of abortion they did, they still try to justify or deny this pain they feel and try to kind of make it okay because of some more some life issues, more you use word bigger picture, kind of more general situation.
I'm not sure they're in denial. I don't know.
Okay, so okay, so you don't mean that they deny. They might even say they feel bad about it, but still they try to kind of say, well, I felt bad about it, I feel horrible, but still it was important to do that, and kind of justifying no matter how they feel about it.
Yeah. So I hope that people who undergo abortions, women who undergo abortions, are able to have all the resources they need to find healing.
Okay, so as I understand you, you believe that it's important to give women who did abortion as vast as possible opportunities to kind of get well, to heal mental, psychological wounds they suffer from, to find them, to find peace within because of what happened to them.
Yes, Carolina, thank you. I feel fully heard.
Okay, that was difficult. Okay, so I would probably choose Suzanne. Okay, I have to start time.
Would you like to do time, or are you okay with timing?
Yes, I already started.
All righty, good.
Well, it's another meeting about abortion. I feel like I already said everything I wanted to say about it. I can just clarify some things. I was talking about, on the former meetings, I was talking about policy, state policy. I was talking, on the other meeting, I was talking about very personal element and personal side of the whole thing. And yeah, I stopped there. Okay.
Okay, well, you have been to other webinars where we've discussed this topic, Carolina, and you're kind of not sure what else you have to add there. One of the other times you talked about something very personal, but you also referred to policy, and that part I'm not sure I got. Could you repeat the part about policy?
Well, I was talking about kind of cultural and political cultural argumentation used in different policy, a state policy, or sometimes some political groups policy. You know, it's kind of, it always have cultural argumentation and well, it's called scientific argumentation, but I believe it's more cultural than scientific because when you want to have a child, it doesn't matter how old the fetus is. It is already your child. When you don't want a child, or you can't have, or you are horrified by that, you don't feel it, you carrying a child. That's kind of struggle women face when they are get pregnant. And I believe it might be, you know, just few weeks fetus, and if you want child, it is already child, even if it's still can be aborted. So I don't believe in scientific argumentation. I believe in kind of what happens to the person, what happens to the woman psychologically, emotionally, and obviously economically, and what happens to her family, her close one, potential father. That's what is important. Okay, sorry.
Okay, now I think I get it now. I think you're saying, Carolina, that sometimes the policy, like the state's policy, they might use scientific arguments, or they might use some other arguments, cultural. But for you, the most important factors have to do with what the woman feels and wants, the family, the father, that it's regardless of how many months the fetus has been inside, as long as it is, I mean, you didn't say this exactly, but I'll just read this in. You know, as long as the abortion can safely happen, or relatively safely happen, you believe that those other factors that have more to do with the woman herself and her immediate situation, those are the more important factors that should determine this. Did I get that?
Yeah, that's what I believe. And I believe that the whole other argumentation is just, you know, justifying this way or another way. It's the real thing is what women and father and family feel about it, and the rest is just justifying. Either it's about abortion, or either is about keeping baby.
Okay, so I will just kind of repeat, because you kind of summarized yourself, so I'll summarize that again. For what I heard you say was that all these arguments that the state might use, the legislators might use, are really,
and even family and women.
And some of those reasons that have to do with Now that part I didn't get, because I think that, okay, so when you said even the family, even the woman, now I'm confused.
Well, they choose abortion and they need to justify, as Bob said. They try to kind of say, well, maybe Bob didn't say that exactly. I just implying. I'm sorry, Bob. But whatever you choose, you need kind of justifying what you did.
I got it.
And you choose this or another argumentation, but it's kind of cultural. It's not scientific. It's rather because you emotionally felt that you have to do that or this, or economically, or whatever. But it's not scientific. It's more kind of personal choice.
So even the woman or the family might use like the scientific argument or some other specious argument to justify the fact that they are choosing abortion, when really it's a much more personal.
Or not, okay? Because pro-life also have scientific argumentation.
So whatever position, pro-life, pro-choice you are, it boils down to the personal choice of the woman, and they use these other kinds of arguments to justify that, and to kind of almost deny their own, and I'm reading that in from what you said to Bob now, to almost like deny that they made a personal choice.
Yeah, that's what I believe. Thank you. I feel heard, fully heard. Thank you.
So I have known quite a number of women who have had abortion.
Who you choose?
Who am I speaking to? Okay, I will have Bob be my listener this time. Okay, Bob?
I'm listening.
All right. So I have known quite a few women who have had abortions and talked to them at length about this. And it was not an easy choice for any of them. So I'll stop there.
So you know many women who have had abortions, and it was not an easy choice.
Yeah. And I also do not know anyone who regrets making that choice.
And you know of no one who regrets making that choice.
Yeah. I think from my own perspective, I am looking more when I say that I am against the government trying to legislate and put people in jail for this, which some of the states are now saying they're going to do in the U.S. When I say I'm against the state doing that, what I'm really looking at is a higher value than perhaps even my own personal feeling that life, that all life is sacred. I actually think the morals of a country possibly, and this is an inquiry I'm having as I'm thinking out loud, that the morals need to evolve as the culture evolves and as the world evolves. And right now, overpopulation is a huge problem, and a lot of unwanted children is a huge public health problem for cities.
So I hear you saying that you reject the government's right to restrict abortion, and you also believe in a positive way that it is a cultural, moral evolution into which we all grow and find wise answers to the abortion problem.
Yes, I mean, if I'm thinking out loud here, but 500 years ago, overpopulation was not so much a problem. But I think it needs to factor into the state's decisions now in public health, just like they're getting involved in vaccines, making people do vaccines.
So you're saying that, 500 years ago, overpopulation was not a problem. It is today, And that factor needs to be taken into consideration in the government's legislation for abortion.
Yes, thank you. You said that better than I did. I'm really struggling with this because this is a new idea I'm having. And I have a lot of actual pain because I am a psychotherapist. That's one of my jobs, how I make my living. And there were many adults that I have counseled. I don't counsel children much anymore. There were many adults that I have counseled who were born into situations where they were not wanted. And, of course, they're glad they were born. I mean, all of them are actually glad they were born, but it kind of shows me some of the problems of growing up in a situation where you really were not, that your parents were not able to take care of you, like they were both drug addicts, that kind of thing.
So in your professional life, you've counseled with many adults who look back at the difficult situations they were born into and raised in. And that's also a factor that should be taken into consideration for parents who are not able to raise children in a healthy way.
Yeah, I actually think a lot of people shouldn't be parents. I say yeah, but what I really mean is I feel heard. So I want to acknowledge you, Bob. And on to my next point here is I would like to see a culture validate, just like I would like to see assisted suicide being more of a valid thing as more of us get older and are looking at that one, like me. I would also like to see abortion be more socially acceptable and people admit that they don't want to be children and they're not fit to be children. I really think people need that option and it to be more conscious and okay.
So I hear you saying that it needs to be okay for abortions to happen so that better families can better raise children who are wanted and needed and able to thrive. And on the same token, assisted suicide is also a policy that you believe should be supported by the government.
Thank you. I feel fully heard, Bob. That was great.
Okay. Ganga, would you please listen to me?
Yes.
Wouldn't it be great if all children who are conceived and born could live joyful, thriving infancies, young childhoods, adolescents, adults, and older years? And I wish that would be so. And obviously it would be nice to say only people who can raise children in a healthy, lovely environment should have them. The human condition, however, shows me that so many children are born into poverty, abuse, addiction, neglect, and I just have a hard time accepting abortion as a solution to those problems. I think we ought to take care of them earlier. I like the phrase conception control, not birth control. I'll pause here.
So, Bob, you shared your dream, a world where only the parents who are fit to raise the children would bring them to this world. And you encourage, or your stance rather, is conception control. Yeah, have I captured the gist?
Yes, thank you. I feel heard here. And so how do we go about being a factor for redemption? How can we take our role in redeeming the sadness of the human situation? And that's the question I want policymakers to deal with. How can we be agents of redemption?
So you want policymakers to focus on how we can be agents of redemption.
Yes. And the thing that irks me in places like Alabama, which is a state that has recently practically outlawed abortion, are those legislators willing to adopt children into good, healthy, thriving, loving homes?
So this particular state, you gave an example, and it's something that hurts you, the way things are going.
Yes, I find that people who are very clear on their anti-abortion stance are ignoring the human needs that revolve around this very painful issue.
So all needs are not being held together in this particular state that you just gave an example.
Yes. So I want to repeat, we all can learn more and improve our ability to care for each other as sisters and brothers in the human family.
So you're wrapping up with a call to the fraternity, to the brotherhood, how we can hold each other with care and love as we work together for this cause.
Thank you, Kanga. I feel fully heard. Thank you.
Okay, so do I go now?
It's your turn now, and you pick who you want to be your reflective listener.
Okay, Susan, would you like to be?
Yes.
Okay. So thank you, Bob, for bringing this topic. I have been looking at a spiritual perspective in India, what we believe, the virtue of celibacy, and where sex is considered a sacred act for procreation rather than recreation. So, when parents bring a child into this world with awareness, then a lot of these population issues get sorted. Having said that, there are of course cases of health abnormalities, but by and large, if we can also inculcate this spiritual approach and value as one of the policy initiatives, I would say that would go a long way in creating a very loving and compassionate society. I pause now.
So when you look at this issue right now, you're looking at it from a spiritual perspective. And if partners could conceive with awareness and realize that this is a sacred act, like conceiving and bringing a child into the world, that this is a very high and important value for you. And if somehow, and I didn't get this part, how exactly, or if this is what you mean, but if somehow policy could encourage this level of awareness around conception, that would be something you would favor.
Yeah, thank you, Susan. I'm just reframing that bit. It's like we have, spiritual education in schools, colleges, where we impart yoga, meditation, which broaden the horizon, deepen our roots, and at the end of it, what does intimacy really offer? It gives two people the comfort of being totally in the present moment.
Yeah.
And a similar state of consciousness can be created through meditation, which our ancient seers and enlightened masters like Buddha and my spiritual master, His Holiness, Sri Sri Ravi Shankar Ji, they all have been sharing. Okay, so I'm just building on the earlier one, and again giving choice to the individual. to choose what they wish to do, honoring their need and the world in which they are accountable to the life they are bringing in.
Okay, let me see if I got that.
Okay.
So in the schools in India, we teach meditation and yoga, at least in some of the schools, probably most of them, I think you're saying. And this imparts a spiritual awareness and an actual spiritual responsibility in people, so that when they begin to be at the situation where they might conceive, they bring this attitude of being responsible for your choice and realizing that intimacy is very much about presence, and this that implies awareness of what you're doing and responsibility for your choices.
Yeah.
So if the whole population could have that perspective, then conception would be consciously engaged in.
Yes. Susan, just my
choice too, and then people would have the choice to whether they, bring a child in or not. But choice also implies conscious awareness.
Absolutely. I just want to add a few comments to your beautiful summary. In India, we have greater awareness now with our Prime Minister who has been elected again. And he has created a department called, the Ayush, which is the reviving the ancient Indian knowledge, broadly put. And Art of Living Foundation has partnered with many schools and colleges to foster this. So it's not yet compulsory, but we are getting there. And I close my sharing.
Okay. So with the new Prime Minister, he's bringing this into the schools, this perspective that we've been talking about.
Yoga and meditation.
Yoga and meditation, which trains the mind and trains the being to have this level of awareness. And this is becoming a social and cultural shared value.
Yes.
And you have the Art of Living Foundation, which I'm going to assume educates people beyond the formal education, that it educates people in meditative practices. It's like, I'm making this up now. It's sort of like adult education in this country.
Yeah.
Did I get that?
Yeah. Thank you, Susan.
Okay.
It's all about building a new culture, consciousness.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. So it's my turn, and I'll ask Carolina to be my reflective listener.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, I'm getting really excited listening to Ganga, what she was saying. And I actually have a student of mine who is also part of the Art of Living Foundation. He's from India. And, and I teach very similar practices. You could call them adult education practices here in this country. And I just want to say culture change is what I'm all about. It's that kind of culture change.
So if you let me, you referring to what Ganga just said, and you are very kind of, feel touch, or you are very interested in what she was saying, because you mentioned the particular name of this project, but I can't repeat that. But you do quite the same things in your country, in the United States. You are engaged in some teaching and practicing some, ways of getting more awareness of our life, as I understand. Is it correct?
Yes, yes, you heard me, and it's called.
Can you repeat the
Art,
name
I was going
of
to
this
say that it's called the Art of Living Foundation,
Art of
I
Living?
believe.
Art of Living Foundation.
Art of
Okay.
Living. And so, you know, anybody can look that up. But many of the teachers from India are coming over to the U.S. and sharing.
So, so this is important thing, because what you practicing or teaching is kind of derived from Indian or Hindu tradition. So this is a very important element of what you're saying.
Yes. Well, there's many, you know, the idea of evolving awareness and evolving consciousness. There's many traditions that comes through down to us in the U.S. Not just Hindu, but yeah.
Okay. Okay, so you make correction. You do correction that it is not just Hindu tradition or philosophy or yoga or meditation. It's that almost every religion practically has kind of practicing awareness and developing awareness tradition. So it's all gets to this foundation, as I understand.
I would say many traditions, but I don't know
Okay.
if I would say almost any religion. I just don't know that one.
Okay.
However, we don't have a prime minister like that here in the U.S. And we have not had a tradition like India. And most of the people that I worked with in the 60s and 70s had never, you know, people on welfare, they would not have any bandwidth to think about spiritual things given the way our culture is, our materialistic culture.
So what I'm hearing you saying that you actually envy Ganga, that her government has such a pose that and take care about cultural tradition, philosophy, and kind of seeding this tradition into society to cultivate this society. There is no such thing in America and the United States government, and you think it's too bad that the United States government doesn't do such a policy.
Yes, I didn't. I probably wouldn't say that I think it's too bad, because I'm just, you know, this is what is in our country.
Okay.
And we come from a much more materialistic tradition. But now that you mention, I think it's too bad. I guess I do. You know?
So you again correcting me that you didn't say too bad, but now you're thinking about what I said, well, trying to reflect you, and you might even agree with that, more or less.
Thank you. I feel heard, Carla.
Okay. So I choose Bob to give everybody a chance.
I'm listening.
Okay, time. I'm actually very glad that Ganga joined our meeting, because most of us are Western culture, and she gave us kind of different perspective on the issue, different tradition, and it's very interesting, not only from cultural point of view, but also about state policy. Yeah, I stopped there.
So you are glad that Ganga has joined us, and we in the West are benefiting from the Eastern approach, which has a much more religious, spiritual approach than the American Western materialistic approach?
I think I didn't say that. I'm just appreciating the opportunity to learn about different approaches than our Western approach.
So you're just
That's
saying
important.
you're appreciating Ganga's contribution to the total picture.
Yeah, and actually, I would like to learn more about economical and social issue that Indian society has to struggle with. It's more than 1 billion people society, so the scale is completely different than, for example, in my country, where our population is just 38 million people. It's nothing comparing to India. So the scale, the range of issues, problems is enormously different from my state, for example.
So you're interested in hearing from Ganga about the Indian approach to economic and social issues with 1 billion people in one country. The scale is so different than Poland, which has 38 million.
Yeah, and particularly on this topic, the economical and social issue, this society with some tradition of, I'm not sure how it is in English, a casta tradition, caste tradition, and all the stuff, how Indian society deals with problems.
So you're curious to find out from Ganga how the Indian economic and social structure, including the history of the caste system, influences their ability to deal with their problems today.
With the problems of abortion and how it works, you know, it's in such a big society. I know that there was the policy of limiting fertility. Just, you know, men and women let it happen, and they were given with radio. Just, you know, it was kind of exchange. Okay, we will do some operation on your body and you will get a radio. That's what I know. So it was kind of stopping them being fertilized. How to say that in English? You know, they couldn't have any children, any more children. Okay, that's what I meant.
So you're wondering how the issue of sterilization was.
Oh yeah, sterilization. Yeah.
In India. Okay.
Yeah. I remember. Probably it was stopped already, but I know there was such a case. Well, the same happened in Sweden in some time with gypsy population, and it was illegal. The same happened in, for example, Russia and Czechoslovakia during the Soviet bloc. Until the 80s, as I remember. So, you know, it's kind of policy that force people to do things they actually may not want to do. It's kind of.
So I hear you saying that in Sweden, the Soviet Union, Czechoslovakia, there was forced sterilization, perhaps on gypsies, as a solution to that problem.
Yeah, well, to the problem with population, with poverty, and so on. Yeah, so it's kind of abusing power, I think. Abuse of power, I believe.
So you felt that those forced sterilizations were abuse of power, even in an attempt to control poverty and solve that problem.
Yeah. So thank you. I feel heard. Thank you.
Susan, you're chairing this. Should I yield to Ganga to respond to Carolina's questions about Indian policy?
this is not part of the empathy circle, Bob, but I think that could come out in Ganga's next share, or
I believe it's Ganga choice.
yeah, we're going to also have a little break, when we go back to join the bigger group, and we might want to discuss, have a little discussion among ourselves, or bring that even into the larger group. I don't know.
Well, I just express what I'm interested.
Would you?
I
Would
just
you like
express
to
what I'm.
So I can speak and I can choose.
Carolina, wait, Carolina had something to say, and I want to hear it.
Okay.
No, I just wanted to say that I said, well, I expressed myself what I'm curious about, but obviously it's about it's Ganga decision what she will do. Okay,
Yeah,
we have a lot of
Bob's
time, so
turn
she will have opportunity to speak.
So I'm
Okay.
going to choose Ganga to listen to me. And abortion is one issue in the human situation. And just as we're having an empathy circle on abortion, I hope as our culture of empathy expands, we can have empathy circles on spirituality, Hinduism, Buddhism, Judaism, Christianity, Islam.
You are muted.
Hi, Bob. Hear me? Okay. Okay. So I hear your longing to have empathy cafe circle on a large range of topics besides the theme of abortion, which we are currently exploring.
Yes. And because today's topic is abortion, I hope that people can begin to listen better to various opinions on the subject. I understand that abortion touches many lives and people are for it or against it in very strong ways. And I hope we can weaken our insistence and be gentle and compassionate about it.
You hope the outcome of this empathy circle will somewhere melt the heart of people, that people open up and they are more receptive and compassionate when exchanging views around a topic like abortion.
Yes, thank you. I feel fully heard. Thank you, Ganga.
Okay. So, should I speak now? How are we doing on time?
We are good. We are good. We have a lot of time. You can choose whom
it
you
seems
want.
like Bob didn't use his full 5 minutes, and just to clarify, I think that's an individual choice. You can use less than 5 minutes. That might have been a little confusing.
Okay. So, Bob, have you wrapped up? Okay. So, I will choose Carolina to be my listener.
Okay.
Okay. And let me pick up the thread where you left with, Susan, and I want to respond.
Okay. So you want to respond to what Susan was saying and the issue question I put into our discussion, as I understand.
Yeah. So I want to welcome you to India to experience firsthand some of the challenges you very passionately picked up. And these are very volatile topics. So I welcome you to India.
So you are welcoming me to India. to kind of face by myself the issue I mentioned by myself, as I understand, to see them. Is it correct?
Yeah. So, Carolina, thank you for sharing. English is not your first language, and therefore, I will not go into wordsmithing. I'm quite content as long as you capture the essence of it.
Okay, thank you.
So,
You're referring to my language skills. Thank you.
yeah. And in empathy, we say, the connection heart to heart is beyond words. So I reach out to you.
You say, well, very poetically, that the true connection is heart to heart beyond the words, as I understand you.
Yes. I receive your curiosity and appreciation, and also wanting to know about India. And I will respond to the first point, which is India is not about Hindu. India is a potpourri of many, many cultures which came to our land and we assimilated them. So the root is Vedic, and I will pause now. Go ahead.
Okay. So you correcting my imagination of India, that India is mostly Hindu. You say, what I'm hearing you saying, that India is actually a kind of aggregation of many traditions that came to this land of your subcontinent, and it's kind of aggregation of all those cultural and religious, as I understand, different traditions. And
Yeah.
it's enormous variety of it.
Yeah. So India used to be called the Great India in English. Okay. If I use the Sanskrit word, it's Mahabharat. Okay. And what the Western world understands as Hinduism has been the predominant phase. Okay. Having said that, under its umbrella, we have many different faiths, and they all are built around the fulcrum of evolving spiritually, becoming a better human being. Okay? So it's not Hindu per se.
Okay, so you say that that you use this expression "Great India," Mahabharat.
Yeah.
Mahabharat, Great India, and is kind of umbrella for variety of cultural and well, philosophical, if we understand a philosophy of life, okay, tradition of life, and it's all the Hindu, thinking about India as Hindu is kind of misunderstanding the real sense of your culture, as I understand.
Yeah. That's a very limited view. Maybe that part is visible to the Western world. And thank you.
Okay, so the important thing is that that's how we see India, and it's our mistake actually to see India this way. And yeah, I feel truly welcome to your country. Now I'm really curious. I'm sorry, now I'm referring to what you say. I broke the rule. Sorry.
Okay. So Thank you. That's all from my side.
Thank you. Well, I have to start my time. Okay, so probably I should choose Susan now to kind of close the circle to let everybody speak.
Okay.
Well, I'm very thankful, grateful for what Ganga said. I thought I somehow understand that, but what she said kind of shows me that actually I understand nothing. So yeah, now I'm really curious about India.
So you're saying you're very appreciative of what Ganga shared, and you were kind of realizing, well, gosh, I got a lot to learn here, that type of thing. And now you're really
Yeah,
curious about India and going there.
yeah. And but kind of coming back to our topic, I would like to say something about state policy and our Polish politics referring to abortion, concerning abortion. And we have very limited, we have the law that limits abortion to just 1 or 2 cases where there is fetus seriously. If there is any serious illness of fetus or the health or life of mother is in danger, or if it's a rape situation. Those are situations when the pregnancy might be aborted. Okay, I stop there.
So you're saying that in your country, abortion, the state, there are anti-abortion laws, but the exceptions are things like if the fetus is somehow not viable. Did I get that?
Well, seriously ill, and it's obvious that probably it would the child will not survive birth. So it's obvious it will die after birth.
So you're clarifying there that it's legal to have an abortion if it's obvious that the child will not live after birth.
Or if the health of life of women is in danger. That's another situation. And another situation is a crime, well, rape.
Right.
Yeah, those are cases where abortion is allowed.
Okay. So in your country, abortion is also allowed in cases of rape or if the mother's life is at stake, the mother will die.
Yeah, but the law is one thing, but the cultural pressure and the climate of it is another thing. And we have very strong anti-choice movements and create kind of atmosphere that doctors refuse to do their job. They even lie to their patients that we have such cases, and well, they ended in a court because woman was left without right healthcare and help. She didn't know how bad condition of the fetus is, and she had to give birth to the fetus horribly deformed, and the fetus died in a few days after birth in horrible suffering. And such situation happens in Poland all the time because the the pressure of those anti-choice movement is kind of so strong that a lot of doctors refuse to participate in it, or to give women opportunity to make right decision.
So you say, well, there's the law, but there's the cultural pressure, which is tremendous. And that cultural pressure is the anti-choice philosophy.
Yeah.
And many doctors will refuse to give a woman an abortion, even if there's great doubt that the fetus will live after birth. And you cite where there are cases where it's a horrible situation. The woman doesn't have the option of getting an abortion. The doctor won't do it. And she gives birth, and the fetus or the baby then dies 2 or 3 days after birth. And it's, I think that causes you real pain to see that.
Yeah, well, to all of them. I just want to mention, time is up for me, but I just want to add that we have a lot of movements. We have actually something called Black Protest. Last 3 years, if you Google Poland Black Protest, you will find a lot of information about it, because it was worldwide noticed by BBC and other news agencies. It was a huge movement. The whole Poland was kind of triggered because the state wanted, the ruling party wanted to completely forbid abortion.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of huge movement.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll reflect that back, Carolina. So there's then this huge outcry, this huge protest movement, and I think you said it's called the Black Protest? Is that the
word? Black Protest. Black Protest. If
Black
you Google
protest.
Poland Black Protest, you will see it.
So there's the Black Protest movement in reaction, and it's a huge movement in Poland, activated by wanting to give women, especially women in these cases of rape, and possibly the fetus is going to die or their health is in danger, in those situations, to give women choice again. That's what the Black Protest movement is.
Well, there were different, currents in this movement, because, if the whole Poland was, moved by, and really it was huge. So there were different options, different views. So we can't say that there was the only one program of this movement. Okay, right. They were different, but they were, again, it was opposition to this project of law that forbids completely abortion. That's what the thing.
Yeah, so there were several strands of the Black Protest movement, each having a cause, but the basic cause was to give women more choice.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to choose you, Carolina, to be my listener. We'll just maybe get around. We got about 15 more minutes in this. When I was talking to Ganga, my time ran out before I got to say that the cases that I witnessed back in the 60s of the people who were denied, the cases that I witnessed back in the 60s where people would never consider a spiritual approach like conscious conception. They would never consider that. My story about that was they weren't even able to handle their material needs. And so, like, that their material needs were their focus, and they didn't have the luxury of paying attention to personal choice or self-awareness or higher consciousness. So that's the first part.
So, okay, so you're referring to your former speech, and you are referring to the 60s, when the situation was completely different and nobody was talking about awareness, consciousness, conscience. The main issues and factors were economy, social situation, possible poverty, and such things. Nobody was considering such things like awareness or cultural tradition, philosophy of life, or something like that. Is it correct?
And actually what I really was attempting to say was the poor people were not. They were poor, so they were not, this is my belief then. My belief is changing right in this call, but my belief has been that the poor people are just trying to survive. They got no time for thinking about, do I want a baby or not? They just do automatically.
So what I'm hearing you saying that in the 60s, at that time, you thought that poor people with whom you're working as a social worker, as I understand, were kind of live, I don't want to use this word, but probably kind of automatically, mechanically, focusing on economical issue and not dealing at all with kind of moral or conscious issue. And now during this call, you are kind of changing your mind. You think you start thinking differently about this time and the situation.
That's right. That's great, because I'm still getting to where I'm going here, which is then I think about India, and the poor people are, my stereotype is the poor people meditate too, Okay, so I'll just say that.
So now you kind of comparing the situation in the United States and India, and you kind of realizing that it's not just poor people in the United States, but also in India. As I understand, it's kind of realizing a human face of poverty, as I understand you, and this practice of meditation is kind of part of it.
Well, what I'm really looking at is, in our materialist worldview, so this is a bit of a clarification. In our material worldview, we have this thing that many of us are educated in that's called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And it's basically saying your material needs need to be met before you have the luxury of higher values being your motivator.
So you're referring to the Maslow pyramid of needs, and that it's kind of natural process that we have first fulfill our biological and also economical needs, and then we can think about focus on luxury of morality or philosophy of life, tradition, cultural issue, and so on.
Yeah, that's right. That's where I came to. Questioning, I'm just in the middle of questioning that set of assumptions. Thank you.
Well, if you want to you may continue, and then I pass my.
Yeah, because the
Okay, I would like to pass my my turn to Ganga because it's a great opportunity to listen from her. You know, so Ganga, if you want, please choose the reflector and please talk to
Okay.
us.
So, Bob, would you like to be my reflector?
I'm listening.
Okay. I want to pick up the thread where Susan left. And I'm also a student of psychology. And I want to say Maslow's hierarchy, the self actualization, the pinnacle, in India is currently going through a renaissance. Okay? And we are looking at institutionalizing spirituality at grassroots. So, in simple words, it's all about breath. A rich man breathes, a poor man breathes. We all breathe. And breath is the link between mind and body. Over to you, Bob.
So I hear you saying that Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which includes the self-actualization, is something that Indian political and cultural leaders are saying, let's bring together all of our needs, and we have the common breath, which brings the heart and the mind together, all together.
Thank you. Very beautifully summed up. It's about alignment and harmony. And to clarify, to Susan's, observation in 60s and 70s, it's true. It may feel like it's a luxury, but in India, can breath be a luxury? Breath is for life. So my spiritual master, he says, no breath, no life, N-O. K-N-O-W, no breath, no life. Over to
So
you.
you're summarizing your spiritual master's teaching, no breath, no life, N-O. No breath, no life, K-N-O-W. Knowledge is breath and life.
Yeah. And breath is something unites everybody. So it doesn't matter which part of the world you come from or what religion you practice. At the end of the day, the air that fills your nostrils is the same air that fills my nostrils.
So the basis of all life is breath. And whether one breathes in India or Poland or the United States, we breathe the same air, breathing in and breathing out and sharing the air together.
And I want to welcome Susan also to India.
And you welcome Susan to India also.
And of course, Bob and the whole group.
Okay. So we're all welcome to India.
Yeah. That's all from my side.
Okay. Susan, would you please listen to me?
Yes, Bob.
One of my deep loves is the religions of the world. And the Bhagavad Gita, the Dhammapada, the Quran, the Hebrew Bible, the New Testament. And I have a book on atheism, and it's called A Better Life. And all of these books are deep treasures of mine. And I hope that as we deal with issues of abortion, poverty, disease, hatred, white supremacy, that we can bring all of these wisdom traditions together and know that we're trying to work together to solve all these problems.
So, Bob, one of your great loves and great interests is the religions of the world and the great books like the Bhagavad Gita, the Quran. I won't name them all. And you even named a book that's the atheist philosophy, that they all point to all of life being bettered, all creating a better life for all. And you're hoping that this issue of, you did bring in the issue of abortion here, and you're hoping that this issue of abortion can be seen through the lens of these spiritual traditions.
Thank you. And I feel fully heard, and I pass.
Okay, so let's see. I will ask Ganga to be my listener for just a few minutes here. We can probably do one more short turn here. So I'm left with this question about poor people in this country in this day and age. Being educated to admit, because this has to do with consciousness too, is I think, being educated through culture, not necessarily through our educational system, but somehow through rising cultural awareness, that we don't all have to be parents, that is a sacred trust.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. You want to look at creating awareness, especially for the poor people, instill this understanding that not everybody needs to be a parent. It's a sacred trust.
Yes, I feel heard on that. And so for me, I think my deepest passion is opening up the cultural norms so that they are really in alignment with reality, and not we're all unique. We all have a unique path. And I learned later in life that my path was not to be a parent, and I've had great gifts from that. And I have many friends who are not parents, and they feel great about it. But I think we're a little bit advanced. Most people in my culture feel shame if they are not parents.
Okay. You celebrate your status of not being a parent. In fact, you feel it's a gift, and you would want all cultural norms to have a reality check. Yeah?
Yes. Yeah. Just that to our cultural norms to be more in alignment with individual differences, and to accept people, accept lesbians, gays, transgenders, people who are parents, people who are not parents, and not have so much pressure that we're supposed to be parents, because the planet has too many people and too many unwanted children. And that's my biggest concern.
Yeah. So beneath all this sharing, you once again amplify the individual choice to be who they choose to be. And all these stereotypes and labels, and this inducing a sense of shame if you're not a parent, that's something you would like to wish away.
Yes. Yeah? I feel fully heard. Thank you.
Welcome.
All right. Well, we did it, folks. This is our little subgroup, and it's time to join the other group. So there's some way to do
Stop recording.
Do I stop recording? Is that what I do first? Yeah, thanks, Carolina. Okay, I can do the stop recording.